by someone wearing a mask, wearing a vest, presenting and pointing a gun at them, that's a police officer, an ICE agent, federal agent, and not a criminal.
Well, the criminal has been wearing masks for a long time. I mean, I saw groups like Antifa commit thousands of crimes over the past few years wearing masks, and no one complained about it. But look, every ICE officer has insignia on their whether HSI or ERO. And I can't prevent someone from making pretend they're. I've seen in my career, I've seen people paint a car as a Border Patrol color. Unfortunately, that happens. We'll hold them accountable when they're caught. But the bottom line is, I don't particularly like masks, but the ICE officers need the mask because their families are being doxxed. And believe me, I know because I'm a victim of it. Their families are being doxxed, their children are being doxxed, their families are being put in harm's way. But no one asks the question, why didn't you got all these legislatures out there want to pass laws that prevent ICE from wearing masks? Meanwhile, I don't see any legislation in Antifa on masking, or these people do these violent counter protests. It's not just protests that turn violent and attacks ICE officers. No one's asking for legislation to take their mask off. So ICE agents are doing what they got to do to make this country safe again. So they're doing a fabulous job. It's a dangerous, important job. But their families are being attacked. And I know for a fact because my family's been attacked. I support them wearing masks. And a lot of it's based on, that question should be given to the lawmakers on Capitol Hill, Democrat lawmakers who want to compare ICE to racists, the Nazis. It's just disgusting because ICE is enforcing the laws they enacted. If Congress don't like what ICE is doing, they can certainly change the law. And the protesters, and when they turn violent against ICE, why don't they go to Capitol Hill and protest Capitol Hill? They wrote the law that ICE is enforcing. So any member of Congress to call ICE a racist or a terrorist for enforcing the law they wrote is disgusting at every level. They shouldn't be a member of Congress.
Mr. Homan, the other day in the cabinet meeting, the president talked about trying to find the right balance between the president's tough immigration policies and also helping out American farmers who rely on undocumented migrants to pick their crops. What does that compromise look like from your perspective?
I'm not going to get ahead of the president on that. I'm discussing that with people, but until the president makes a final decision, I'm not going to get ahead of him. I'll support what the president comes up with. Again, this is a job of Congress, right? If there's a need for these workers to be into the country, we have a lack of those workers, and Congress has certainly improved the visa program. But I'm not going to get ahead of the president. I'll wait till the president makes his final decision, and we'll go from there.
Sir, how many people are still detained at Alligator Alcatraz, and do you still see a role for that facility?
It's about 50% full right now. First of all, I disagree with the judge who made that decision. I went down there. I walked through detention areas where these people sleep and live. I saw a clean facility, a well-maintained facility. I went to the medical center and talked to the nurses there on staff, looked at the medical facility. It was great. I even asked, what if there's a serious situation here? Can you handle it? And they can. And if it got too serious, there's a helicopter right there on premises to take them to the nearest trauma center. That's better than a lot of U.S. citizens have. And I even went to the cafeteria, and I actually looked at what they were serving for lunch that day. I opened it up and looked at it, and it was good food. And the whole environmental concern, I was briefed by the person running the facility that all the waste is removed from that facility every day, taken off-site and removed from the facility. And as far as the complex itself is built on existing infrastructure, the runways and the airport was already there. These are just off-site facilities. Now I'll say this, I thought it was a great transition facility, but I do think ICE needs more brick and mortar facilities. We've got the money now to build infrastructure, like we're building the wall and other things down there. We need permanent facilities. But I think, I'm thanking Governor DeSantis and the other governors who are stepping up saying, we want to help you build detention facilities because they're affected by the last 4 years of an open border and all the criminals that release in this country. So I welcome the governor stepping up and helping us with these transitional facilities.
Mr. Homan, as the president talks about sending the National Guard into other cities like Chicago, is this a way to target sanctuary cities?
No, I think you're sending to, National Guard would be in cities that have crime problems. But I'll tell you this, I was in LA when that whole thing started there, and I was there the first couple of nights, and I'm glad the president sent the National Guard to Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a safer city today because of what President Trump did. The men and women at ICE were physically attacked, the facility was physically attacked, that housed aliens that were arrested, that put them in danger. After 2 days of the governor of California and Mayor Bass not taking action, President Trump did. He made the right decision. So National Guard, they're not out there, being the head of enforcing immigration law. They're assisting ICE and ICE operations to help with the infrastructure, intelligence, transportation. ICE officers are making the rest, but as far as the National Guard going to cities and making it safe again, I see great success in Washington, D.C., and I agree with the president sending them to cities that have a high crime rate. If these mayors choose to not address the crime rate, President Trump is going to. He made a promise to American people, and that's why he's sitting in the Oval Office. American people put him in there because he promised to make America safe again. That's what he's doing.
Mr. Homan, why hasn't that happened in New York yet, considering you called for ICE agents to be more present in New York?
We've had an increase in ICE presence in New York.
What about National Guard? Do you think they should be sent in the next few
I won't get ahead of the president and where we go next.
Mr. Homan, is
Can I ask a
there
question
hard
about
data on crime reduction numbers due to deportations, self-deportations, and the removal of criminals from the United States?
Yeah, there's been several studies by several groups here in D.C. The crime rate has dropped down in areas where we've done surge operations. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but look, not every illegal alien in this country is a public safety threat, but many are. For that percentage that are, when we deport them, that makes the city safe again. And despite what I read in the media, that we're arresting all these non-criminals, I look at the number every morning on the way here. I look at the numbers every morning. There's about 22 pages of data. 70% of everybody ICE arresting is a criminal. But the left says, well, not criminal enough, it's just a DUI. DUI kills over 10,000 people a year. That's a public safety threat. I don't care what anybody thinks. 70% of the people ICE arrest are criminals. Who's the other 30%? National security threats. We arrested thousands of national security threats. Many of them don't have a criminal history because their whole goal is lay low till they do their dirty deed. Gang members, a lot of gang members don't have criminal history. And finally, final deportation orders. People who had due process at great taxpayer expense, they were ordered removed by a federal judge and they didn't leave. And we're looking for them too. Because we're sending a message to the whole world. It's not okay to enter this country illegally. It's a crime. It's certainly not okay to ignore a judge's order after you're given due process. The message we're going to send, we have consequences. And one of the reasons we have such a secure border right now is not only because of the great work the men and women of the Border Patrol have done, and the president signed executive orders like remain in Mexico and ending catch and release. A part of the success of the most secure border in this nation's history, because we're showing the world there's consequences. You enter this country illegally, it's not okay. If you get order removed by a federal judge, you're going to leave. We're going to make sure of that. And I think the world's seeing ICE operations throughout this nation, 1,000 teams out there every day. We're sending a message, and that's helped greatly reduce the amount of people who are trying to come to the border.
Mr. Homan, can I ask a question about legal immigration?
There are reports about a multi-agency immigration enforcement operation in Chicago after Labor Day. Can you confirm those reports and why Chicago?
Look at the crime rate in Chicago. I mean, when this administration first came to power, Brandon Johnson, mayor there, he says I wasn't welcome in Chicago. Where was I the first day? Chicago. And I was up there in operation. I remember that first day, if I remember the numbers right, the first day we took like 9 predators off the street. Sexual child predators off the street. We arrested members of TDA. We arrested Trendo Iowa. We arrested members of MS-13. We arrested 2 people that were convicted of murder that were walking the streets, illegal aliens. So in one day, look what we did. Chicago still has a crime problem. So President Trump, again, made a promise to American people, we'll make this country safe again. So Chicago has a crime problem. That's why President Trump's thinking about it.
So is there a yes to the operations ramping up after Labor Day?
Operations are ramping up across the country, but you can see a ramp up of operations in Chicago, absolutely. You're going to see a ramp up of operations in New York. You're going to see a ramp up of operations continue in LA. And, Portland, Seattle. I mean, all these sanctuary cities that refuse to work with ICE, where we know public safety threats are being released every day into this country, especially those cities, we're going to address that. We don't have that problem in Texas and Florida where all the sheriffs are working with us and they're actually holding people for us and letting us know when someone's being released. So we're going to take the assets we have and move them to problem areas like sanctuary cities where we know for a fact they're releasing public safety threat, illegal aliens to the streets every day. That's where we need to send the majority of the resource, and that's where they're going.
Mr. Homan, on legal immigration, the Trump administration is considering reduce the duration of visa for students and journalists. For journalists, for instance, the I visa would be now that lasts for a year would be 240 days. Can you confirm this? And why is this important? Why do you consider this important to limit the duration for visa for journalists?
I can't confirm that. No.
Tom, on a personal or professional level, can you just offer your reaction to the Catholic school shooting yesterday?
It's heartbreaking. I mean, I made no qualms about it. I'm a lifelong Catholic, and I actually went to Catholic school, and it's terrible. What happened was terrible, and I hope y'all hit your knees last night and said a prayer for those children and their families. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible thing. Just terrible.
Gavin Newsom has accused ICE of being Trump's personal army and being more loyal to the president than the
Gavin Newsom is an embarrassment to the position he holds. Heart stop. If he had an ounce of integrity, he would be calling President Trump and thanking President Trump for making LA safer. He'd be calling the head of ICE and thanking them for the thousands of criminals, public safety threats they've taken off the streets of California. He'd be calling the Secretary Noem and thanking her. If the data proves it, anybody can look at the data who we've arrested in California, he ought to be thanking us. So Governor Newsom he's an embarrassment to the position he holds, and you know, he's trying to be relevant apparently, whatever. But we're going to be in LA today, we're going to be in LA tomorrow, we're going to be in every California city. We'll be in San Diego. I was in San Diego, Seattle, Portland last week, meeting with the men and women at ICE to understand the hate being pushed against them, letting them know that the president has their six. I have their six. They're going to keep doing the job without apology. So Governor Newsom can stand by and watch President Trump make California safe.
You
Okay?
think that alligator Alcatraz was a waste of money? Now it's being shut down?
No. I think the judge made a bad decision. I was there. And it's a transitional facility. It's not a long-term facility. It's a transitional facility. I thank the governors who are stepping up and saying, let us help you. Because they felt the wrath of the last 4 years of open borders. 4 years. 10.5 million people come in this country. Most of them released in the nation. Right? And again, I'll say it again. Not every illegal alien is a public safety threat, but many are. But we have the most secure border in the history of the nation today, because of President Trump and the men and women of the Border Patrol and the men and women of ICE. This country is safer. And with illegal immigration down 94 to 96%, you all know this, there's been studies done to say 31% of women that make that journey get sexually assaulted by the cartels. Under Joe Biden, we had a record number of aliens die making that journey, over 4,000. That's a historic number of people dying making that journey. Historic number of people, 250,000, died from fentanyl poisoning because of that open border and fentanyl flowing across. Sex trafficking, women and children were at historic highs. Number of known suspected terrorists, over 400 just on the southern border, an historic high. So when President Trump has illegal immigration down 94 to 96%, how many women aren't being raped making that journey? How many children aren't dying making that journey? How many aliens aren't dying making that journey? How many Americans aren't dying right now from fentanyl overdoses because that border is secure? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked in this country because of what President Trump did? President Trump's success on the border is unprecedented. He's saving lives by the thousand. Even the wall. People want to attack the wall as his vanity wall. This is America's wall. Because every place they build a wall, illegal immigration is decreased, illegal drug flows decreased. But one of the most important things no one talks about, the wall saves lives. Women and children can't get over that wall, which means they go to a place where there's not a wall. And what's waiting on them? The men and women of the Border Patrol who's going to take care of those medical needs, because a lot of them are in bad shape when they get there. President Trump's on the border. His success on board is unprecedented. I wake up every day proud I'm working with this guy because he's the greatest president of my lifetime, and he proves it every day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.